Hi, this is Group 9. We're going to talk about quality of life, assistive technology, and personal safety. We're going to talk about assistive technology and its uses, classification, and examples. And then we're going to talk about personal safety, especially on sexual violence. We choose to talk about assistive technology and physical safety because we believe both of these topics have a big impact on quality of life for people with intellectual disability. For example, assistive technology is one of the most efficient strategy and a way to support people with ID. And physical safety problems like sexual violence may cause extremely negative impact on their quality of life. The information presented in this presentation was gathered from a variety of sources, including academic journals, websites, and videos.
Hello, this is Yuan Yi from Group 9, and I'm going to talk more about assistive technology. So, assistive technology is any item, piece of equipment, or product that is used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of individuals with disabilities. Assistive technology products are designed to provide additional accessibility to individuals who have physical or cognitive difficulties, impairments, and disabilities. When selecting assistive technology products, it is crucial to find products that are compatible with the computer operating system and programs on the particular computer being used. Many types of assistive technologies are computer software, scan and read software, word prediction software, simplified word processing software, voice recognition software, organizational software, and magnification software. Here are some other examples of computer softwares. Since 1804, many technologies have been invented to facilitate individuals who are intellectually disabled. Assistive technologies have benefited the society in a significant way. For example, increases the self-esteem of individuals who are mentally disabled and enhances the quality of life, adds to the productivity of an individual, increases the performance at work and school, and enhances the independence, and also increases the self-confidence. There are also some cons of assistive technologies. For example, majority of the assistive technologies are very costly. Many technologies cost thousands of dollars, and many school districts do not have the money to provide these technologies. And to be able to use the technologies properly, training has to take place, which is very time-consuming. And some say that technology can never be fully relied on, as we all know that technology always has its flaws. And if a student's assistive technology device is not working properly, the student may not be able to complete his or her task. And also, by having many different assistive technologies, some students may abuse the use of technology by using technologies they do not necessarily need. The Assistive Technology Industry Association, often abbreviated as ATIA, is a nonprofit membership organization of manufacturers, sellers, and providers of technology-based assistive devices and services. ATIA members are active in providing assistive technology in a variety of fields, including the following: assistive technologies were manufactured as early as 1808. The invention of the first typewriter paved pathways for the invention of other innovative technologies. Now we're going to talk about some daily life assistive technologies. For example, some assistive technologies are easier to understand and use, such as the visual assistant which provides step-by-step directions for performing a task in the form of simple images. And also medication reminders, which is designed to remind patients to remember their daily medication dose, and also special watches designed for people with Down syndrome. So, in conclusion, assistive technologies have facilitated individuals with intellectual disabilities. They can help individuals perform better at work and school, and they improve performance and self-esteem, and also it has improved the quality of life. Here are some of my references. Next, I'm going to hand over to Grace, and she's going to talk more about the physical safety part.
My name is Grace Schaefer, and next we are going to discuss personal safety as it relates to the quality of life of persons with intellectual disabilities. Why is personal safety important for quality of life? A lack of personal safety can impact both physical and psychological well-being, separating persons with intellectual disabilities even more from their community and robbing them of control over their own lives, which, after all, is a huge component of quality of life. In this project, we specifically targeted sexual violence as a personal safety risk for individuals with intellectual disabilities. We wanted to explore what it is, how often it happens, why there's an increased risk, what the consequences are, and how we can prevent it. First of all, what is sexual violence? Well, contrary to popular opinion, sexual violence has nothing to do with sex. It's about exercising control and power over a vulnerable person. Components of sexual violence usually include assault and ongoing continuous sexual abuse. Unfortunately, persons with intellectual disabilities are more likely to be targeted as vulnerable and become victims much more often than those without a disability. Why might this be? Well, for one thing, persons with intellectual disabilities may not have the communication skills necessary to report their abuse. A strategy for this may come in the form of assistive technology, as we discussed earlier in the presentation, but this is not always widely available for victims. And even if this violence is reported, those told about it may not view the victim as being reliable due to his or her intellectual disabilities and may not take their reports seriously. Similarly, some persons with intellectual disability may not even be able to identify that what is happening to them is sexually violent, especially if the perpetrator is a caregiver or role model, which unfortunately they typically are. Almost always, the perpetrator of sexual violence against a person with an intellectual disability is known intimately by the victim. Particularly, they are usually a family member, a caregiver, a trained professional, or a teacher. There are many physical and psychological signs of sexual violence that are important to know about in your career and in your personal life. Physical signs of sexual violence include bruising, sexually transmitted diseases, interrupted sleep patterns, and psychosomatic symptoms such as headaches and stomach aches. The psychological outcomes of sexual abuse, such as depression and loss of trust, are worse. They further isolate individuals with intellectual disabilities from their communities, negatively impacting their quality of life, and also rid them of control over their own actions. How can we prevent it? One way to prevent this problem is to provide resources, such as educational videos like this one, for individuals with disabilities.
Sexual assault, when sex is not okay. This video is for you, so you can find out what sexual assault is, how you may feel if you've been sexually assaulted, and where you can go for help.
What is sexual assault? Sexual assault happens when a person gets you to do sexual things that you do not want to do. Some of the sexual things which could be sexual assault are someone looking at or touching your private parts if you do not want them to. These are the parts that are covered by your underwear.
If any person asks you to look at or touch their private parts, or puts their mouth on your private parts, or wants you to do that to them and you don't want to, it is also sexual assault if they put their private parts a finger, or anything inside you, and you do not want them to. If someone took photos of you without your clothes on, and you didn't want them to, or made you look at books or videos of sexual things that you didn't want to watch, that is sexual assault.
Remember, it is sexual assault.
Videos like this are crucial and give a resource to individuals with intellectual disabilities who are often assumed to not have any sexuality whatsoever and are therefore never given a comprehensive sexual education. Another way to prevent sexual assault and abuse for individuals with intellectual disability is to change our attitudes regarding sexual assault and consent. We need to recognize that violation of any person's sexual boundaries is a destructive crime, especially if that person doesn't always have the resources that they need to protect themselves or to accurately know what's going on in a situation. We need to take claims of sexual violence that are made by individuals with disabilities seriously, because as we have seen, this happens on a fairly regular basis. And finally, we need to advocate and spread the word about the victimization of individuals with intellectual disabilities when it comes to sexual violence. This is not talked about very often, partially because of few reports, and partially because we don't like to think about individuals with intellectual disabilities as having a sex life of any kind, inappropriate or otherwise. Some closing thoughts are, sexual violence can have devastating emotional, psychological, and behavioral outcomes for persons with intellectual disabilities. These outcomes can contribute to a drastically lower quality of life for these individuals, keeping them from their communities, from their friends and their family, and from forming healthy future relationships. Lack of trust, physical injury, and mood disorders rob persons with intellectual disabilities of control over their own lives, a key aspect of quality of life for everyone. The following are the references used for the sexual violence portion of this project. Thanks so much for watching, everybody.